What's up everyone, I'm Max, and today we're going to be going over the 5 best comps to climb on this patch. I also use these comps to comfortably qualify through this past weekend's Tag Trials tournaments, as you can see here, and I highly recommend them. These are must-knows in order to do well on 14.2. So what are the 5 comps? Well, you most likely have seen this in your game, Holobow Zeri. This is a must-know. A new comp that has recently emerged, Vex Exotechs, and then we're going to be going into some rerolls. Slayer's reroll is going to be the best on the current patch, with Veigar reroll and Street Demon reroll being good as well. We're also going to go over some meta changes from 14.1b and also talk about some tier lists so you know exactly what to do on stage 1 and on stage 2-1. So meta changes. What are going to be some of the best comps to play on this current patch? Well, as you can see here, Zeri, Exotech, if you have Holobow. So you definitely need Holobow in order to play Zeri. If you don't have that and you have some AP items or AP start, you could play the new Vex Exotechs composition, and the pure AP magic damage composition on level 8 is going to be the Street Demon Brand Ziggs. These are going to be the most meta comps for the level 8 forecast. Going into some rerolls here, Vayne reroll is going to be the best reroll composition of the patch, with Shaco reroll also having its good spots. Veigar TF from a tempo spot. Here you're just playing for a top 4 unless you have a super setup. Veigar Jinx, and also a new one, the Fury, you could play if you have Hyper Fangs as a 3 Exotech trait. Breakpoint. Some comps to avoid unless you have a really high roll spot or a great spot for them. Anima Squad, MF Flex, these are just, in my opinion, a little bit underpowered compared to some of the other meta compositions. One composition that is going to be very high roll or low roll depending on your spot is going to be Golden Ox, Super Feast or Famine, and I think is going to be a 1st or 8th composition, so be wary of that before you just play this. Okay, so let's get straight into the stage 1 holds tier list. One thing to remember is that these units are influenced based off your drops and also your items. So for example, if you have like melee items or like said artifact anvil, of course Shaco will go all the way up, and then vice versa, depending on some of these other units. So first thing to note, Vayne is the best reroll composition of the patch. This means if you have a Vayne Oper, you definitely want to be holding your Mundos paired with your Alistars. Bruisers, I'd say, are about the same as Vanguard, just play whatever 2-star upgraded units you have, but I would say they're a little bit better than the Bastion Opener just because I don't think Jax is that great of a unit. As I mentioned, Slayers go up if you have 80 items. The Techie tier list goes up if you have AP items. One thing to note, Nitro is no longer the best opener. Just the way they changed Nitro, Tempo Nitro is no longer as good. And the last thing to note, Cypher's still broken. If you're able to get 3 Cypher in ASAP, that is going to be great, and ideally try to cash out a 290 intel. Moving on to the stage 2 item tier list here. So Rageblade is still going to be the best 2-1 slam. Extremely flexible. Vayne is about equal to Holobow Zeri, just the best comps of the current patch, which are both going to be better than TF, but of course TF still playable. So Rageblade, super flexible. Same with IE into Holobow Zeri if you don't have Pulse as well. Blue buff is going to be quite good on this patch. You can either play into Veigar reroll, you can also play into Vex, and then melee items are going to be good. If you have an early Shaco 2-star, to play Shaco, you definitely need a Shaco 2-star and slammable items, and then you can either reroll this or go into Veigar Jinx depending on your augments and what other players are playing in your lobby. So let's get into the comps now. Holobow Exotechs. Last patch, it was all about that pulse and that flux. This patch, it's all going to be about Holobow because of its new buff. So what is this? Level 8 composition of physical damage stall board. You only want to be playing this if you have Holobow. Does not matter if it's in the 3, 5, or 7. You just need to have Holobow as one of your Exotech items. Really strong, really cheap board with only 2 4 costs, so that's why it's cheap. High cap, and you're able to go level 9 hopefully pretty fast. Doesn't require any +1s. However, Exotech +1 is going to be very good. This allows you to drop the Knave Fury and then play a better like unit, so like a 5 cost. And this is going to be the best combination if you have both Holobow and Pulse. This means in this case, you will not need to build an IE, and you'll just go Rageblade, Pulse, and a Holobow on your Zeri for your main carry. A little bit of rhyme there. Alright, so here's the board. Very simple. 7 Exotechs and Kindred. That's essentially the entire board. As I mentioned, ideally you have both Pulse and the Holobow. If you don't have Pulse, then you'll have to build the IE instead. You really need Zeri to crit because of the interaction with Holobow, and you at least need one of these to pair with her other items. Sejuani's best items are just going to be mana tank items, so this is going to be ideally Vow, Redemption also good on her, Adaptive Helm also good on her. You just really want her to cast ASAP, and in regards of the Exotech items, Lantern is going to be about equal to Chassis on her, which are both better than Cyber Coil. More bets in slot, you'll just put some more of the aura items onto Mordekaiser. So like Even Shroud is really good mid to late game. Jhin provides some Sunder early, but it's not very consistent. Sunfire Cape or Redemption are all going to be good on Mordekaiser as well. And Mordekaiser uses Chassis quite well because of how much he shields, and Crown Guard is going to be good on Mordekaiser as well. One last thing to know is on level 9, you really want to be playing an Aurora, and ideally pulling in a Zac. Remember, as you're rolling, make sure the Zac is on the board, so then you can pick up the Bloblets, and once you are about to like actually start the round, you'll just swap out the Zac with your Aurora, and then Aurora will pull the Zac in with the Bloblets. This is how you're going to capo your board. As you can see here, just play the Aurora. Ideally, on Aurora, you have a mana item like Adaptive Helm and an Archangel, just because the fights go very long. And Aurora is an amazing applier of anti-heal, so either a Morello or a red buff on her to finish it off. Two of the best augments that you can get with this composition is going to be Trait Tracker and Bad Luck Protection. Trait Tracker is extremely good, and not only is it just like a really strong augment that can give you multiple emblems that actually will benefit your actual like trait and your composition, but for Exotech units, the more items they hold, the more HP they gain, and the more attack speed they gain. So these Trait Tracker emblems are essentially just free HP and free attack speed for your Exotech units. So that's why that's very good. Bad Luck Protection pairs extremely well with the Holobow interaction, and with Holobow IE on the Rage Blade on Zeri, I believe it's either like between 40 to like 70 AD depending on your actual build. Regardless, this is a huge amount of AD, and Zeri doesn't actually care too much about the actual ability crit anyway, so this is basically just an insane amount of attack damage for your main carry. A couple other really good augments: Cyber Deck, Exotech +1, you get to drop the Neferi. As I mentioned, Trial Run is okay. I mean, Frontline is Frontline for this composition with a Rage Blade, Item Collector, Binary Airdrop, Buried Treasures, and any Cybernetic, with Bulk and Implants being a little bit better than Uplink. Little Buddies, Prince Pipeline also very good, any Econ Augment, and Bulky Buddies as well. So definitely play this composition. If you have the Holobow Exotech item, you'll not regret it. Just make sure that you have this build and you are playing this composition setup. Let's move on to the second sort of Exotech composition of the day. This is going to be now Vex Exotechs or Vexotechs. Also ideally playing with the Holobow as well, but it doesn't necessarily require a Holobow and has a little bit more flexibility within the Exotech items. Also has a pretty flexible game plan. I'll go into what that means essentially. And the reason why Vex is here, well, Vex is just a pretty good unit. More contested now. This was pretty good during trials because there's not that many players playing this, but essentially gives you an alternate route instead of just playing 7 Exotech with Zeri. So here is what your base level 8 board is going to look like. Very cheap as well, only 2 4 costs, and you're able to get to line pretty reasonably as long as you have like Econ Augment and you hit on reasonable tempo. Level to 8 on stage 4-2 and roll for this board. Now Vex Bis. One thing to note is Vex has 30 mana. So Vex uses a blue buff extremely well, much better than Shojin, so I would really try to greed for that blue buff on the Vex. Gunblade still also extremely good on her, and then one last item wants to be a damage item. So either Guardbreaker, Giant Slayer, Rabadons, even a Jewel Gauntlet is fine. And I don't think Archangel is that good on Vex. She actually does a good amount of upfront damage, so just having some pure damage item on her is going to be very good. Sejuani will still be holding your mana tank items. Vow is just Sejuani's easily best item. Once again, Mord can hold your more aura items here. Varus actually wants to be holding your anti-heal and your shred, so like your Morello or your red buff and your Shiv. One thing to note is you definitely need to scout around your lobby if you're playing this composition. If you see not many players are playing Mord, which is pretty unlikely, then you can go for Mordekaiser 3. Same thing with the Varus. If both of these are contested, so there's most of the time Mord is contested, let's say there's like a Rengar player or just a lot of other Exotech players, then you just go level 9 and cap around that way instead. So this is going to be one win condition. This is going to be the second win condition. Eventually, you're going to be dropping the Jhin and the Jax, playing a Renekton for 2 Bastion still, and then Jhin you'll be playing over or playing with Viego and Aurora instead. This is an example of what your final board is going to look like. As I mentioned, Renekton, Viego, and Aurora come in on level 9, and Jax and the Jhin come out. Couple good augments to play with the composition. Board of Directors is very good, but with this augment, you need 3 or can only have 3 Divinity Corp. So in this case, you'll drop the Gragas and you'll just play like a Kobuko or Cho'Gath until you have Kobuko. Lucky Gloves, there are a lot of good units in this composition. As you can see here, like Aurora, Viego, 2 of the best 5 costs, totally untouched for this patch. So that's very good for us. Lucky Gloves, it's going to be good. Call to Chaos to try to get level 9. If you get 3 TGs, that's really good. 3 Lockets is very good. Even like 3 attack speed in the back is pretty good as well. 3 Zeeks. Item Collector, 1 buff, 2 buff is going to be one of the few times I'd recommend taking this augments. If you don't have a blue buff yet, let's say you're just slow rolling, so it gets your blue buff in here and then gets your red buff for either the Varus eventually onto the Aurora, and then who knows, you hit 2 Viegos, you hit 2 Auroras, hit 2 Renektons, and all of a sudden you have a 2-star 5 cost. Econ, Bulky Bodies, Blue Battery, same idea if you don't have the blue buff. Spirit Lake and Crown Guarded are going to be good as well. One last thing to note is Vex positioning. You want to put her into the middle. The way her ability works is she hits their initial target and then has an AoE within 1 hex. So in this case, you could hit up to like 3 units, maybe even more. If you put her on the corner, then sometimes she only hits 2 units. So ideally, this is going to be your default Vex positioning. Okay, so those are going to be the 2 main 4-cost carry compositions. Let's move more into the reroll now. Slayer's reroll is specifically Vayne reroll is the best reroll composition of the patch. It stabilizes extremely hard on stage 3 and caps really hard with Jarvan 3, Senna 3, and of course Vayne 3. So here's how to play it correctly. This is going to be a level 6 to 7 composition, stabilize on 6, slowly econ back up, level to 7 on stage 4, and then slow roll, and this will be a physical damage DPS board. You want to be playing this from early Vaynes and a Rage Blade, and make sure you call Vayne ASAP if you have this spot. And then your best augment is going to be category 5, and that is going to be very good with the Vayne. This is what your level 6 board is going to look like. Ideally, play 4 Vanguard over 4 Slayer on level 6. It's just a stronger frontline, and with Rage Blade, you just need a strong frontline. Your 6th unit can be Alawi. I like this. Having 3 Anima Squad provides you a little bit more damage, a little bit of tankiness, and then some damage amp onto your Vayne. Also, you just don't have that other great 6th unit in this actual spot with 4 Vanguard. You're going to stabilize by leveling to 6 on 3-2 first, and you really want to roll for at least Vayne 2-star and some form of frontline. This is going to be your initial roll down and your initial stabilization. After you have stabilized with like 2-star Vayne and some frontline, then you want to econ back up and look to go level 7 starting stage 4. Vayne best in slots is going to be 2 Rage Blades plus 1, and this plus 1 is going to be pretty flexible, either Runon's Deathblade ideally. You can also build a Gunblade, Giant Slayer, or Rage Blade as well. Your tank or bruiser, extra bruiser items can go on the Jarvan. He functions well at both. He does a lot of damage now after the changes, and he also tanks well. But normally I like to keep my Even Shroud on Jarvan and then play flexibly off of that. At this point of the game, you don't have to be worrying about Sejuani too much because you're on stage 3. However, on the next slide, I'll show you how to position starting stage 4 so you don't get your double Rage Blade backline carry stunned. This is how you're going to want to start positioning on stage 4 to dodge the Sejuani. Essentially, by positioning like this, the Sejuani will be ulting like this way, even if they put it on the far, in this case, like from our view, the far right. Sejuani will walk over, and her cast will minimum hit like in this sort of target radius, so your Vayne in the bottom right will never get stunned, and that is extremely important for a double Rage Blade backline. Level to 7 on 4-1, and now you want to start slow rolling for the Jarvan 3, the Senna 3, and of course your Vayne 3. Ideally, you have items on all 3 of these units, and then items on other units are just a bonus. If Zed is 2-starred and has items, then you can start to actually position him to assassinate the enemy backline, but if Zed is not 2-starred and doesn't have items, then you shouldn't worry too much about his positioning. On level 8, I actually like playing Renekton more than anything. It gives the attack speed to your double Rage Blade and just units in general, plus 3 Defender Core. You can also play a Garen as well, just whatever you have. Most of the time, you'll be spending the majority of your game on level 7, however. Another sort of Slayer composition that you could play is playing more around the Shaco. So if you're going to be playing Shaco, you need two things. Number one, by the time 2-1 comes around, ideally you have either Shaco 2-star or Shaco pair, and you have a slammable item. The way Shaco works, whenever he gets a kill, he gets permanent stacking AD, which means instead of just like 5-lossing into like a Shaco super roll down, you ideally want to be playing like more of a tempo spot where Shaco is already getting kills throughout stage 2. That's why Shaco 2-star plus a slammable item is very important. In regards of your econ, you don't want to be leveling on stage 2. You want to be rolling for Shaco 3 on level 4 on stage 3-1 after the Krugs round. This is going to be very important because getting that Shaco 3 ASAP means that you will be spiking earlier, getting more kills, which will translate to more AD and allow you to tempo correctly throughout the game. In terms of his items, if you don't have any artifacts, then your best install is going to be Infinity Edge plus Eon, and then some sort of extra healing. Although you will be playing 6 Slayer and having a lot of healing through that, early game you'll just be playing like 2 to 4, and healing is never bad for a unit that does a lot of damage to either Bloodthirster or Hand of Justice. If you're uncontested Vayne, which is pretty rare, but hey, sometimes that happens, you can also duo the Vayne, of course, double Rage Blade plus 1. And in terms of your positioning, your Shaco wants to be same side the enemy backline carry, but not taking aggro first. So I normally like to put Shaco in this hex or in this hex with the Braum being on his adjacent. Shaco uses a large amount of artifacts. So in Portable Forge, if you have Portable Forge or if you have Zed artifact, you definitely want to be holding Shacos. And on that tier list earlier, instead of Shaco being at B, he's more of A or S depending on your items. So here are the artifacts that Shaco can use. One thing to note, if you're playing ranged Shaco, you do not want to be Syndicate hatting the Shaco as he'll just teleport in and int it. In this case, you just want to be Syndicating hatting the Braum instead, only for if you're playing ranged Shaco. As you go up in levels, you won't be adding more Slayers, so on level 6 is going to be your next big spike, adding in that Senna and then your Jarvan, and then on level 8 is going to be your next big spike, where you'll be adding in your Vayne and your Zed, finishing off with 6 Slayers plus 3 Syndicate on level 8, and then you play for hopefully your top 3. Best install augments for the Slayers composition, specifically Vayne. Anger issues, extremely good. Usually this composition or this augment runs to a few issues, pardon the pun, but in Slayers you actually have a reasonable front line that heals off of each other, so the healing is going to be really important. Most time with the Rage Blade you don't have the healing, so that's why Rage Blade or Anger Issues is going to be extremely good. You really want to make sure you have 3 Rage Blades on Jarvan in this case and 3 Rage Blades on your Vayne. Category 5, pumping up 1, 2, 3, Starry Night or Shop Glitch to allow you to hit. Piercing Lotus is good as well if you do not have an Even Shroud built. A couple other augments that are going to be quite good. Gambler's Blade, if you're missing let's say you only have a 1 item Vayne on stage 3, then this is going to be very good. It gives you a 2 item Vayne right away, and then you could finish off your Vayne starting like stage 4. Mentorship, Heroic Grabback to help, Pandora's items, and Glass Cannon 1, the silver, is going to be very good as well. Let's keep it going here. Veigar Reroll, this is going to be a level 6 magic damage burst composition, and you'll want to be playing this from our early Veigar and tiers. This is what your level 6 board is going to look like. So you don't want to be leveling or rolling ideally until 3-2. If you have a good start, then you could level as well to like level 5. This is actually more of a tempo composition, so don't try to just 5 loss into like a super win out. You want to be saving some HP and having and holding the units that are going to be applicable to your board. In regards prioritization, definitely prioritize that Veigar 3 over the Shyvana 3. Even if you hit Veigar 3, unless you're very close to Shyvana, I wouldn't stay behind because you really need to be getting to level 8 ASAP and playing around for Cyber Boss. As I mentioned, this is a little bit more of a tempo composition rather than just like a super sack and win out, as opposed to Vayne, which actually can super win out. So Veigar's Abyss can be a little bit more flexible. If you have the opportunity to make the Shojin and win rounds, then don't greed, just make the Shojin. The second item can be like Nashers plus JG or like Guardbreaker plus JG. You can even do Jewel Gauntlet plus Gunblade. Don't greed too hard and lose too much HP with this composition. Just slam what you have as long as it's reasonable. And of course, Shyvana 3 is going to be tankier than Mordekaiser 2, which is going to be tankier than Shyvana 2. This is how your final board is going to look like. You need 4 Cyber Boss in ASAP, along with 4 Techie as soon as you hit that Viego, and also ideally playing around 3 Street Demon. within your Nico, your Echo, and your brand. Some augments that will help you achieve this is going to be new high score. Not only does it essentially guarantee you a Kobuko by the final cash out, it will give you gold as you start to deal more damage, so that helps you out econ wise. Kyra weaklings, piercing, lotus 2 or 3, any shock glitch or starry night. Mana Zane is going to be Veigar's best artifact and allows him to super blow up any unit that he is attacking. Mana Zane definitely looking for this, same with Blazing Soul. And our last composition of the day, I'm not going to call it Rengar reroll, I'm going to call it Street Demon reroll, because nowadays you want to be playing around the Rengar plus the Jinx. This is going to be a level 7 physical damage burst board, and you want to be playing this if you have an early Rengar, or if you have an artifact start because of how many artifacts this composition can use. One thing to note is although you will ideally take some sort of econ for this composition, combat augments work great because of the interaction with Street Demon. At 7 Street Demon, all of your units will have plenty of HP and plenty of attack damage. So this pairs really well with more HP such as Cybernetic Bulk because this is percentage, or resistances through either like support items or through like Randuin's with immovable object. Here's what your final board is going to look like. So let's pretend we're level 7. You'll just be playing around pure 7 Street Demon. You're going to stabilize first on level 6 a little bit, just because you don't want to super lose out into this composition. I highly don't recommend just 8 lossing and then sending it on 3-5, or even 10 lossing and sending it on 4-1. Try to stabilize a little bit, and then slow roll on 7 for both your Rengar and your Jinx 3. Your Jinx base is going to be Shojin plus IE. If you don't have IE, this is most likely because you have the Executioner emblem. An Executioner emblem is going to be amazing on Jinx. In this case, you'll just do the Shojin Exec emblem +1, either a Deathblade, Guardbreaker, Giant Slayer, and if you don't have an Even Shroud, then you could build the Last Whisper on the Jinx. Rengar base is going to be BT Titans +1. This can either be a Hodge, a second Titans, Edgenite, or Sterix. One thing to note is on level 7, you won't actually have Executioner in. So having a second Titans or Edgenite or Sterix is actually going to be a bit more beneficial than that Hand of Justice. However, if you do have Executioner in, either you're level 8 or you have an Executioner emblem, then Hodge is going to be quite good. Finish off with your Vex on level 8 and then your Urgot on level 9 and you're good to go. Here's how you're going to cap out your final board. As I mentioned, Best in Slot Augments, Executioner, Crest, or Crown. In this case, as you see here, you'll be putting this on the Jinx and pairing it with the Shojin +1. Rigged Shop is very good in this composition. It essentially guarantees you the Rengar and the Jinx, and the fact that this gives I actually forget if it's either 9 or 11 rerolls, but this is an insane amount of gold for a silver augment. Any Forge, you're fishing for either Mana Zane on Jinx or Spectral / Silver Mirror / Spectral, Silver Mirror, and I forget the last one. Prowler's Claw onto Rengar is going to be extremely good. Cooking Pot, if you have an early Rengar as well. Cooking Pot is half Executioner emblem and allows you to get that HP on the Rengar. Same with Freestyling, it's going to be very good. You're playing Street Demon anyways, and giving that large injection of 25 gold along with some Street Demon units is going to be quite good. Finish the composition off with some other combat augment, and you're looking at a pretty solid top 3. One thing you need to note is ideally you want to have your Jinx and your Rengar in the significant or the signature hexes. If you really need to position around them, either your opponent is hard targeting these hexes with like a Zephyr or like a Super Sejuani, etc., then it is okay to move it off the hex because it's better for your units to deal some damage away from the signature hexes than to be completely stunned or completely killed right away on the actual signature hexes. Okay, so that was everything for today. I'll do a quick recap in 1 minute and then I'll finish things off and anybody can ask questions. So today we talked about the main comps that you want to be playing on 14.2. Holobow Zeri, you put Jax into the planner in your top right. If you see Holobow at either 3, 5, or 7, doesn't matter, then Holobow Zeri is one of the compositions you can play. If you have the spot for it and you don't have a reroll spot, then this now becomes a composition you should play. This is all determined whether or not you have Holobow. Vex Exotechs is more flexible. You don't necessarily need Holobow in here. And then on level 7 to 8, you could determine whether or not you want to go for the Varus / Mordekaiser 3, or if you just want to be trying to push level 9 and cap around the 5 cost instead. Street Demon Brand Ziggs, it's good composition. You most likely will not lose to anyone on stage 4 if you have an econ augment and you hit everything. But starting stage 5, there are going to be some compositions that you can't beat. A couple of the rerolls, Vayne reroll is going to be the best. If you can hit the Draven 3, Senna 3, Vayne 3, you'll most likely go top 2, unless there's like a Cypher cash out. Shaco is just top 4 composition. TF is a top 4 composition. Veigar can do better than top 4. Rengar Jinx can do better than top 4. And if Fury is a little bit experimental. So that's everything for today. Best of luck in your games. I'll be streaming my perspective of the Tacticians Cup this upcoming weekend, starting on Friday at 2 p.m. MDT. No, 4 p.m. 4 p.m. EST is actually the same thing. 4 p.m. EST or 1 p.m. PST. So hopefully I'll see you there. Link is in the description. Best of luck in your games. And yeah, have a great day. Take care. See you next time.